Hi, Rich from more Maitri. I'm going to be going over how I make my missions in D&D. I'm going to be using Pages. It's like Microsoft Word, but for Mac. So if you're on Windows, you can use Microsoft Word, Notes, or something like that, and use the same tools and follow along. So first thing I like to do is I like to keep things organized. So how I do this is I use text boxes. I'll click on it, and usually for my title or anything like a header, I'll make it a black space. So then I'm gonna just make my font a bit larger, maybe bold and underline things. Alright, and then I'll just adjust this box as well. After I do this, I will make an intro. So I'll go add another text box in here, mess with the dimensions to my preference, and then I like to make my intros or whatever I'm reading out loud to the players a yellow colored text box. So then I'll make my intro. Hey, so I just finished making this intro. I'm doing a Star Wars themed D&D where my players have just escaped a Imperial Star Destroyer. So what I have written is, blaster fire from TIE fighters shakes the ship. You activate the ship's hyperdrive and plug in the coordinates to the closest non-Imperial planet. The ship blasts to light speed and you escape the TIE fighters Star Destroyer. So after this, reading this out loud to the players, I will add another box in there. So this box is something that I don't read out loud to the players, and it's more a note to myself. And for these, I usually like to color these blue. And what I'll do is I will say what the players can do after this. So since they just blasted into hyperspace, there's a waiting time. The players get downtime to sit around the ship, heal themselves, get some rest. They just went through and fought for multiple sessions, so they definitely need some rest. And then also they have someone on the ship that they have captured that they can question as well. So I'm just going to plug this all into the blue text space here. Okay, so what I got written down so far is that the players have 2 days of wait time while they're in hyperspace. They can rest while this is happening. They can question the spy, Sojin, that they have captured. And then also the players can look around the ship for supplies and secrets that the Imperials might have left around. So how I go into these in detail is there's going to be roll checks. So let's go over how I do the roll checks. So first, players resting and healing their wounds. I really don't need to put a roll check in there. That's something that's simply in the books that they already know. So the players questioning Sojin. So I will put this in a space down below. I'm going to go and click the text space right here, size it out to how I want it. And then for DC checks, I usually keep them blue when doing something. But since this is describing something, a scene, when I usually describe things, I will keep them in green if I don't say it out loud to the players. So I'm going to fill in this space right here about questioning the spy, some DCs that I'm going to look up according to the book, and other things. Okay, so I added some information in here. What I added was something that I found online, which is from the fandom. If they're unfriendly, the DC is 30. Indifferent, DC is 25. And if they're friendly, the DC is 20. This is for persuasion or intimidation check. So the characters are going to have to roll that and get a DC of 30. But for the intimidation check, I'm going to put that a little lower, just because he is stuck on a ship at the mercy of the players right now. So my DC checks for intimidation, 25, if they try to use some sort of force or something to intimidate him. And then just to question them regularly is going to be a DC of 30 that they have to reach. Okay, so I just added some more information into this dice check. What happens if the players pass the check? Sojin's basically going to tell them the information that they want. And then if they fail the check, Sojin's basically just going to keep their mouth shut, even if they try to make more intimidation checks or try to beat him. He's a trained spy. So next I'm going to add in the square, little text box, and this is going to be for the players looking around the ship. So I'm going to size this out. And then since this is a DC check, I'm going to make this one blue since it's not really describing anything too much. So it's going to be a perception check to look around the ship. And then we're going to make this a DC. So is this going to be hard? They have 2 days to look around this ship. They have a lot of time to kill. So I think this DC is not going to be too hard. Anywhere from 15 to 20. They're level 4s, so let's make this 15. And the players will find supplies. And then let's say if they roll a perception check of 20, they'll find something more juicy. The players might find some hidden information that the Imperials have. Okay, and after I put that in, I will add a green text box below. And I'm going to describe the supplies that they find. And then I'm also going to describe the Imperial information that they found. So in this green space below, I just kind of put details on what supplies they find. They're just going to be able to replenish their ammo and med packs. And then also if they find the Imperial information, which is basically just leading them on to the next mission. It's a secret cloning facility that they're going to investigate. So here I've added a pink text spot, basically describing things that are happening after the players get out of hyperspace. The spy has secretly activated a tracking device, and his gang members will overtake the ship once the players get out of hyperspace. So I've edited the pink square a little bit to have an option where they can either capture them when they get out of hyperspace, or I can have them land on the ship. So this yellow block I just added is describing what happens when they get out of hyperspace. Basically just seeing the planet that they're going towards and landing on one of the moons and going to a spaceport on one of the moons. When they're on the moon, they basically get approached by a landing party to pay for the hangar. So below in this blue square, I put the information on the boarding party, which is it's a Rodian and 2 security droids. If the players don't pay them, there's going to be a fight scene, but it's only 200 credits, so they should be able to do it. So I added another yellow text square down here, and it's just describing the spaceport. There's a place for dining, place to buy stuff, and if the players want, they can stay near the ship and fix it. I'm also just describing things around the spaceport, like what it visually looks like and how big it is. So now I'm going to add some details to the spaceport. I'm going to do this with a green text bar. So we're going to add the text box here. And then we'll make it green. After that, let's add some details to it. One thing we can add is the shopkeep, what kind of items he has, and how expensive they are. So I'm going to put that he has high-priced, rare items. Next, players can go to the dining room and get drinks if they want, and or food if they need it. People will also be playing cards in the dining room that they can join in on. I'm also putting they can buy more supplies, like food and fuel for their ship. So after that's done, I'm going to add in a new text box here. And I'm going to make this text box pink. So this is basically just going to give me some information on what's going to happen next in my story. So I'm going to go ahead and put something down here. So I put down that the spy has activated his tracking device, and now his friends know where he's located. They will first have one ship come down as a recon, seeing what's going on, trying to find out where he is, and another ship will come in guns blazing later, starting a fight scene. So after that, I'm just going to add a check right now, and it's going to be a DC check. So I'm just going to adjust this box real quick. And now I'm just going to add in this text box. I'm going to color this one blue since it's a DC check. And this is going to be a perception check since they are going to be looking around for anything suspicious. And they're going to see if they notice these spies. So I'm going to write this out here. So I'm going to make the perception check a DC 20 since they're level 4s to 5s. And now I'm going to write down what happens if they pass. So I put in that if they pass the check, that they will see a shady looking character that's not really resting or refueling around the base. And that'll kind of tip them off. And now I'm going to put in what happens if they fail. And then for the failed check, I just put that they don't see anything unusual. Okay, so next I'm going to be adding in a red space. So a red text space. And I use these for fight scenes. So a fight scene is going to start after a while. They have time to look around the base, buy things. This spy's friend is going to come and do recon. They'll have time to do perception checks and see if they notice anything weird. And if they don't, then this will happen. If they do, they can also go and attack, but most likely they will not be able to detect the spy. So I'm going to write out what happens with the fight scene. So I put that the spy doing recon will contact the second ship, tell them to come and attack, and they will attack the hangar, taking people captive, questioning them, and looking around the base for the spy Sojin. Okay, so I just added that. The players will have to say where they are before the fight scene starts, and after the air battle happens where the ships come down and destroy things near the landing pads, the players will not be able to take off during the attack. So next I'm going to add a text box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe the battle on how the players see it. So I'm going to make this yellow since I'm describing something and reading it out loud to the players. I'm going to type something here. So right here I put, you hear a large explosion as blaster fire shoots down onto the base. The oxygen that was once in the base is now being sucked out through a blast hole in the ceiling. Aliens around the base put on their breathing mask and hide behind cover. So after I describe what has happened to them, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag and drop some information that's going to help me with the fight scene. This is stats on their enemies, their allies, and also the map that they're fighting on. Before I do that, I'm going to label these with a black colored marker. And this is just going to let me know that these are going to be the enemies. So I'm going to type enemies here. And then after this, you can bold and highlight things to your preference. So I'm going to move this text space down. And then I'm going to drag and drop some of the enemies. So one of the low-level enemies is going to be a brute. I'm going to drag and drop that information over. This has been taken from the Star Wars Saga Rulebook, Threats to the Galaxy. Next, I'm going to be drag and dropping a mercenary into there. This is a higher level enemy, but still lower level than them. I'm going to drag and drop a variation of that enemy in here as well. And then I'm going to add someone a little bit harder, more challenging for them to take down. I'm just going to size this so it fits in here. So after I resize those, I'm going to add another space, and then I'm going to put in their allies. So I'll just title this Allies. So for one of these people, I'm going to add a commando. It's a rebel that they met. Another one I'm going to add is an engineer, since there are engineers on the base. Another one I'm adding is a gambler, since there are card players on the base. And then lastly, I am adding a pilot, because there are definitely pilots on this hangar. And then next I'll add the game map. This you can do through using graph paper, drawing it out, or through some DMs or game styles, you can play without using an image of a map and just keep track of it through information told. I hope this helps you out on how to make missions for D&D. This is using Pages, again, with a MacBook. You can also follow this using Notes or Microsoft Word to help organize your missions and make them look neat, so it's easier to read them off and to describe it to your players. Join me on more videos where I'll be going more in detail on how I write up my missions and how I do things.